I welcome all the reporters who are telling the world about our fight for freedom. Our next guest is Vadim Boychenko, the mayor of Mariupol. Hello, Vadim. What are the latest news from the city? Well, the situation in this city has been dire in Mariupol. We've heard some good news, however, that our president, Vladimir Zelensky, has been involved in saving the lives of our heroes, the defenders of the heroic city of Mariupol. So I would like to say thanks to Volodymyr Zelensky, the president, the International Red Cross and the UN, who joined efforts to save the lives of the local population and our heroic warriors, who for over 80 days have been holding grounds when the enemy had several times more troops. But what's important is that the guys helped us defend the rest of Ukraine and be prepared. And today we are working to save their lives. So if you can share some information, please tell us what is going on with these warriors who are now taken from Azovstal. I have already commented what I could. Unfortunately, the topic is very sensitive and very delicate. The negotiations mission is there. Unfortunately, I can't say anything else. Who can you tell us who is engaged in the negotiations? The President of Ukraine, the International Red Cross, the UN, and there is the negotiation mission. At different levels, I would say. Okay, so let us talk about the situation in the city overall. Besides the topic of Azovstal and the topic of liberating our heroic soldiers from the besieged factory, what's the situation in the city? We know that the situation, well, there is humanitarian problem in the city. There is lack of food. There's no potable water in this city. The city has been living without power supply. And the city today has no conditions for providing healthcare. There's no medicine. And another important component, which turns into a very big issue, is the epidemic component, infectious diseases. Well, now summer is starting in this city, and the city needs more water for sanitation. Also now Mariupol, well, the sewage is not working. So we have to understand that over 100 people are still living in Mariupol, and it is a problem. We have qualified doctors who are now drawing the attention to the fact that it might be a huge problem, both the environmental disaster and the epidemic might start. The UN also has been saying that there might be an outbreak of cholera or dysentery, and this unfortunately can take lives of thousands of the locals. So we have to come together around this problem, the lack of full-scale evacuation from this city. We have to have, like, the UN and the ICRC should work on this. The whole civilized world has to come together to prevent these disasters, to make sure there are corridors so that the residents of Mariupol would be able to leave for the territory under Ukrainian control. Unfortunately, today, we see that it's almost impossible. According to international conventions and international law, resolving humanitarian issues, you've mentioned, is in the sphere of responsibility of the occupier. So, what is being done now by the Russian occupiers in the city? Do they resolve these humanitarian issues somehow? They are trying to do something, but we see that they do not have professional experience. They have tried to join the power grid, and those few apartments which still were intact, essentially they were burned down because they didn't test the power grid and caused fire. Also, they're trying to connect the water supply, but they don't understand that it's a comprehensive system which has to work comprehensively with the sewage, and now the water is just flowing down the streets of the city. And unfortunately, it has only caused bad consequences because now the locals and these terrorist troops of the DNR, they've been burying many people, the victims of the killings. So the water essentially is now flooding these graves, and it causes the environmental problem and the epidemic problem, because this dirty water is just moving in an unorganized manner towards rivers and towards the sea. So in summer, this will be a very big problem. That is why we're urging everyone to come together so that we would create the conditions for the evacuation, so that our residents would have this ability. And thousands of residents of Mariupol have been calling the hotline of the municipality, and they were begging to be safe, begging to have evacuation. But we see that now the Russian occupation forces and these DNR, so-called, they are not enabling this. If there are questions in the audience, please let me know. And I would like to ask a question about the evacuation of the civilian population. How many people remain in Mariupol who would want to leave the city but do not have this opportunity? Well, in the city overall, there are over 100,000 people. In order to have accurate figures, we need to have some stable evacuations. If every week the buses are leaving, if people are seeing that these buses are leaving towards Ukraine, they will have confidence to evacuate. There were thousands of people, but throughout the last month they didn't have a stable possibility to leave for Ukraine. We've organized these evacuations, but they were only small scale and sporadic. So people are looking forward to these corridors. So people are waiting. They are calling the hotline. They are begging us to save their lives. That's why we have to work. The most important thing for us, and every life is important. We want to save every soul, and people want to go only towards Ukraine. When you're talking about the environmental and epidemiologic consequences which can happen, you're telling about the danger which can start in summer. What exactly could be the consequences? We see that the UN has been saying, and our qualified doctors are saying that, well, we can have outbreaks of infectious diseases, of dysentery and cholera. Because in Mariupol there's no proper sanitation. The sewage is not working, and the raw mass burials created by the Russian army, they've killed over 20,000 population. Unfortunately, now people are still buried there. So rains and other conditions in summer, this certainly would affect this epidemiological component. We've seen in the recent month the brutality with which the enemy has been attacking Mariupol. Do you have an opinion why the Russians have had such a strong hatred towards the city? Why is it so crucial for them? It's my personal opinion. I've been born in Mariupol. I brought up my children there. My son is now in the army, in the Ukrainian army. And every second person in Mariupol somehow has Russian roots historically. Today, 95% of the population is Russian-speaking in the city. So, of course, we have many questions. Why? So my personal opinion on this is, like, why it's happened that they just destroyed the city. Like, 50% of the city is burned down. It's just ashes. There might be only some carcasses of the buildings. So they really were brutal here. Why? Because in 2014, like overall in the East, the Russian military leadership, military and political leadership, suggested this so-called Russian world, this Russianness, under the name of DNR and LNR, and Mariupol has been under this influence for 2 months, but it didn't fall for this propaganda, and the DNR did not spread onto the territory of Mariupol. So Mariupol left the city. So I think the first component is that we were standing strong, and they thought it's an insult. And another factor is that when Russia occupied Donetsk, which has been a beautiful developing city, very European, very modern, there was lots of development because the city was in Ukraine. And when we see that under the occupation, in these 8 years of war, Donetsk, unfortunately, has only been in ruination. Nothing's been happening there. In Mariupol, under the Ukrainian flag, it was improving. There were modern parks. There was modern urban transport. We've got over 200 million euro of investments. We've built new water supply system, roads, kindergarten, schools. We had the ice rink, ice arena, a swimming pool. We had lots of plans, and the city grew by 30%. People from Donetsk, Kharkiv, Makiivka came in to live in Mariupol. Children from all over Ukraine were coming into the city. The city transformed and became a modern and European city. And we have approved the strategy, the development strategy. It's the seaside city with the ocean of possibilities. And this was irritating for them. They were envious. That's why they were so brutal, Mariupol, because we had courage and they had envy. I'd like to add for the reporters who are hearing us and watching us that just like in 2014, Mariupol remains the symbol of Ukrainian courage and the heroic struggles. They helped withdraw the attention of the Russian troops, which Russia wanted to use to occupy the Ukrainian Donbass. My last question here is that yesterday on this stage we had Kalush Orchestra, the band. They said that they simply had to mention Mariupol on the stage of the Eurovision Song Contest. What did you feel when you heard that Kalush addressed the whole Europe asking to save Mariupol? I felt shivers, and I still feel shivers. Thank you so much for supporting Mariupol, and thank you for supporting not just Mariupol, but also our heroic warriors, who gave everything. Some gave their lives. They defended not just our Mariupol, they defended Ukraine. Thanks for supporting. I appreciate every Ukrainian who is supporting Mariupol now. This is the most important now. Mariupol is the symbol of Ukrainian courage, and Mariupol has been and will be a Ukrainian city. Glory to Ukraine. Vadim Boychenko, the mayor of Mariupol, thank you for this conversation.